College football is back, and so are we here at Bash's College Football Show, trying to increase the quality of the show. And look, this last month has been crazy. All 4+ Notre Dame teams predicted full schedule predictions, and we were on track for that. But things happened for the better. Things happen for this channel and for my potential career that I'm going to be in a whole lot in trying to get to sports media. So if you want in big, make sure you guys like the video. That's all you got to do is just click that thumbs up, because every time you click the thumbs up, 10 more people are going to end up finding this video. Make sure you guys in every which direction that I deserve it, because there are going to be a lot of things in here. We're going to be picking all of the Power Four, and there's going to be a lot you can disagree with. So comment that down below, and most importantly, subscribe. If it doesn't cost you anything, just do it. It doesn't. That's all I got to say with that. So we're getting into this college football season, and we're going to be predicting all of these schedules, and I am super excited to get into it. We already did. Let me rephrase. We already did, but some of them and some big teams, unfortunately, we missed. And that was just a circumstance thing. So at the end of the video, I'll just kind of give you around here. So let's just get into what you came here for. We are going to predict every single conference standing in the regular season. Each slide, I am going to pick the conference champion, who's going to win that conference championship game. We're starting with the ACC. Now, this layout right here is an important game. Is that Louisville SMU game early in the season. That's going to be very, very important. I think the sleeper team within this conference is California. And you could look at the standings all in all, and you could try to poke holes in it, and we're not necessarily going to spend a ton of time talking about every single team and going down the list. But here's the deal. Clemson to me are going than they were a year ago. And on the flip side, by the way, when you're talking about the California Golden Bears, they were a solid team last year, and I can't imagine that they don't wear but up this year. So if I'm out, because those are two teams I'm very bold about. Some other big time notable things is you can see North Carolina. I thought about docking them some points just based on a lot of the noise around them. But at the end of the day, I'm like, nope. I had them 6-6, and I think I even put them at 5-7. But ultimately, I don't want to make too drastic of a change based on new information that we find. And some of this stuff that you guys are going to see, to predictions that I've made, keep in mind that we started doing things like 4 months ago. Information changes, stuff changes. My official predictions to be. So, yeah, we could try to address all these teams, go down the list, but ultimately, I think Louisville, SMU, the winner of that one. I think SMU is a really good team, so that's a very important game. And I think Miami's a shoe-in for the conference championship game. When you look at Miami, though, you see I got them having one loss in the. I just think that there's going to be a game that they probably shouldn't lose against a D. Probably shouldn't lose. They're twice a year, and it's just unfortunate that that's the situation. Find yourself in. And obviously, the road trip to South Bend, I line up with Notre Dame winning that game. But ultimately, I am picking Miami to win the ACC for the first time in their school history. Miami is going to be my ace after the shift gears. And this one's a little bit bold here. We're going to talk about the Big 12 and what we got going on here. So When we look at the Big 12, he's the new starting quarterback over at Texas Tech. He may struggle early in the season. We preview this. BYU 8-1 is very, very achievable. But I will say this about the Big 12. This conference from basic 18 and even Kansas, I think everybody up are going to be pretty competitive with each other. Now, if Texas Tech ends up separating kind of like the way that they did in the back part of the season, fine, and they have to prove that they can do that again with a new quarterback there. But ultimately, I think those early struggles and the experience that's going to dividends in the end. Excuse me. Now, I did think about flipping that prediction because my confidence has grown with Will Hammond because schedules in the Big 12 between Houston and Texas Tech. Okay. Not going to play. More than likely not going to play. And he doesn't get any sort of runway into that game. He gets a little that team is going to completely change my predictions here, but ultimately I think that Houston and beat Texas able to control their destiny and be in the driver's seat to make the conference championship. So I got BYU and Houston with Texas Tech right there with them. I'm not Texas Tech. I think the other loss is going to be to my very most dangerous team in this conference. I think they're very much a wild card conference. It can very easily, I see a world where they compete for a conference title. Dave Aranda has been up and down, and they've been competitive, and then they've been not competitive. Ultimately, come down and prove. And I think a lot of people are overlooking Baylor because of the recent kind of so. I think Baylor with DJ Lagway could be a perfect marriage, and all that kind of needs to happen is Dave Aranda, his expertise, and Baylor is kind of a sleepy team. But there's two of them here. I think Arizona State is a team that's very much getting slept on within this conference. Now, when you see but I think that they're a team that could be threatening for a Big 12 title this year. It's just kind of how those transfers are going to be able to mesh. Now, a team that I thought that was to a conference championship game appearance is Kansas State with this year coach Colin Klein, and he dealt very recently a very good season. He's all conference first team preseason tackle. So that's a big hit. But on top of that, the former Ohio State transfer George Fitzpatrick. So I don't know how that offensive line is going to look. And I worry about that offensive line not being very solid in front of Avery Johnson because I think it needs to. They need Avery Johnson's legs to be critical. I still think they're going to be a solid team, but I expect a little bit of regression on the defensive side of the ball. Offensive side, everybody kind of anticipates with Colin Klein is maybe a little bit more limited now without two of your top three. That's the situation here. I think the most overrated team in this conference is Oklahoma State. I mean, when we're talking about Eric Morris going into the season last year at North, I think he in a bottle. I got a lot of teams surprised, but they were also able to kind of lean on a little bit of a favorable schedule last year within conference play. And when they played the point, They got put in their place. They got put in their place against Tulane. They got put in their place against USF. Let's not forget that. And I actually translate into this league. So I think that the Oklahoma State Cowboys are right now I'm going to take BYU to win the conference and make the college football playoff here. So we're going to take it. We're going to move on to this Big Ten conference. Taking a look at the Big State, Oregon, they're all sitting at 11-1, 8-1 now. Indiana beats Ohio State. Ohio State beats Oregon. That's how I have it working out. Now, I'm going to say this right now. Indiana's losing a game. They're not going undefeated. As much as I would like to Curt Cignetti, they're going to lose a game. And I didn't choose it to be the Ohio State game at home, but they're going to lose a game somewhere. At least one. Now, to predict a little bit of a fall off to 9-3, 8-4, like some people may be inclined to do, I'm not going to be the fool that doubts Curt Cignetti with Ohio State and Ryan Day. They have not gone worse than 10-2 in a regular season since 2011. So ever since then, they haven't been any worse than 10-2. And it's not like they haven't played any sort of tough schedules since then, because in 2016, the 3 on the road. We can't ignore that. We can't ignore that they were able to go on the road to 3 top 10 teams, one really a generationally tough schedule. Everyone wants to make comparisons to this year's team to the 2024 team. Well, their problem back in 2016 is more. I'm very confident is going to be better than that 2016 team. That defense is going to be a top 5 minimum unit, and I think the offense will be a top 10 unit as well. And if you don't think a team like that is going to go at least 10-2 and make the playoff, I don't care at what schedule. It's going to be favored in all regular season games. The odds market is going to favor Ohio State. 12 there. Oregon going to be a very tough one for them, and I think people are too much penciling in that Oregon's going to come into the shoe and win that game. Seeing that's a tick too high on Oregon. I mean, obviously, I got respect for Oregon, the fact that I got them sitting at 11-1, but I think people are just a tick too high on the Oregon Ducks, and I know that's being overshadowed. I think USC is going to be really good too. They need to win one of those big 3 games. They play Oregon, Ohio State, and doesn't matter what, to win all of the games you're supposed to. Last year they had a similar setup. 3 big games. They had Notre Dame, Oregon, Michigan. In hindsight, would have probably been a bigger game, and I guess preseason that would have been the game. Michigan, Penn State are going to be pretty solid, but I think the surprise team within this conference is going to be Wisconsin at sitting at 8-4. And Josie Jeff Grimes is going to use him very well on that offensive side of the ball. They brought in Abu Sama. I think they're going to kind of get back to the roots, but the only difference is they're going to have Wisconsin roots with a dynamic quarterback defense, and they have quite honestly, they just have a favorable schedule as well. And I know don't predict schedules, predict teams. But with Wisconsin, I think the team is a lot marginally better than they have been each of the last 2 years. And I think you're going to see that on the football field. So I'm defending that take pretty strongly right now. But the team that people are overrating in this conference is Washington for sure. There's just a lot of pieces that they have to replace on both sides of the ball that I don't know if they were able to replace it. A lot of really a lot of favorable home games, and pardon me, by the way, they're scheduled today 4-5, not 4, but whatever. I don't see how this Washington team is going to be anything special, though. I mean, 7-5, middling in the Big Ten. I think that that's pretty reasonable. I do want to mention UCLA is one team that I am pretty high on. The only reason if they were to play much of anybody outside of the top 5 in the conference, from Penn State down in the last 2 games, I would probably pick them to win in the last 2 games of the season. I'm just keeping it 100. But their last 2, I'm very high on USC, but UCLA could mess things up for USC. Don't sleepwalk through that game. And same with Michigan. You cannot sleepwalk through that game. But ultimately, I'm going to pick Ohio State to get their revenge in the Big Ten championship over Indiana to win the Big Ten championship for the first time since 2020. Conference champions within the Big Ten. Let's shift gears to the SEC here. You can see the standings right there, the shocker, and maybe the prediction I've gotten the most heat on when I've talked about it with people, and probably the prediction I'm going to get the most issue going to. All of this is going to kind of hinge on if they can survive the first half of the season. The first half of the season, I have all the confidence in schedule, how it sets up for them. I think that they're going to get their best version of themselves in that Ole Miss game. I'm not super scared about Clemson. Texas A&M after that, really going to be a challenge. I think there's some 8-2 games that LSU should be able to win when they get to November. They get the bye week, same bye week as Alabama, just like every year. Off of that bye week, they get Alabama at home, Texas at home. Those 2 games are, number one, if LSU has a desire to make the conference championship, they cannot drop either of those games. Number 2, can be a tremendous resume builder for you to be able to create your own path to the college football playoff. At LSU, off of that back, they will lose the road trip in Neyland Stadium to Tennessee, who I have ranked 8th in the conference right here. But ultimately, you can kind of see it. I have mentioned before that I believe that the loser of Ohio State, Texas, I am taking Texas to lose that game, and I'm taking them as a contender in the playoff. I mean, so when you go back, you break, do you see who's got a more viable argument for that last playoff spot than Texas? You got, obviously, I'm putting Notre Dame in the playoff, Ohio State Conference champion. Then you're looking at BYU. And so we got 5 spots here. You assume the loser of the Big Ten and the SEC are going to be in. You assume Alabama at 10-2 is going to be in. You assume that Oregon is going to be in and USC is going to be 6. Who else is making it? Are we going to put in a 10-2 Texas Tech over a 9-3 Texas? Are we going to put a 10-3 Houston over 9-3 Texas to that? Are we going to compare 9-3 to 9-3 Texas? I think 9-3 Texas would win that. Ultimately, it's going to depend on the value system of the College Football Playoff Committee. I think the team that everybody's way too high on within this conference is Ole Miss. last year. I think Trinidad Chambliss and Kewan Lacey, they will have their moments. I think John David Baker is a really good offensive play caller. I imagine that team is able to replicate the same result they were able to get under Lane Kiffin the last 3 years. I can't imagine that. And I think the easy one is hanging fruit. It's South Carolina. A little bit concerned about the injury status of Jakarius Peak and Dylan Stewart. But other than I think that they are one I could be a dark horse contender right for the college football playoff. So I'm going to take South Carolina as the sleeper team, but ultimately my conference championship pick, I am going to go with the LSU Tigers. If they are able to get through that conference championship game, I believe Lane Kiffin and LSU will get it done. Call me crazy, taking LSU to win the SEC. And if LSU wins the SEC, by the way, Georgia fans, you're still probably going to get a bye at the very fans anyway. So that's kind of interesting stuff. Let me take a sip of my drink real quick. I'm going to just post this because at the end of the day, it's been a long journey. We had to get a new computer. One that I was using was first too low, but second, they needed a new computer. So we haven't been able to use a PC setup for the last month, which is why we had to take a hiatus. And I've tried to stay pretty active posting on TikTok. But I'm not going to get into a lot of details, but essentially I made major life changes to be able to go to school for exactly the type of work. I'm hoping that support of everybody who ends up watching this video and who doesn't come by until a little bit later, I'm really capitalize on what I believe is a special, unique talent. I don't think you get into this game unless you think you're the best at what you do. And I truly think that I can be the best at talking about college. I easily think that that's achievable for me. There are certain things that I got to work on. Delivery is one of the things I got to work on. Presentation, obviously. Today, right, resourcing that I have, it's much better than it has been, but it's still a one-man show. I am the producer and I am the personality. It is something, and like here's a good example. Because I've kind of had so much stuff going on behind the scenes right now that I'm just trying to work on to prepare for the college football season, it's choppy because I normally do. And that's the reason why, because I haven't really had the time to, because I've been trying to get everything set test streams yesterday, essentially, to just see kind of how that side of things were doing. We were playing with the widgets and stuff like that, trying to see what we can do with OBS. So behind the scenes, which is why, again, this was maybe a little bit more of a choppy video, but ultimately I am just so excited to get into all of these conversations that we're going to have this college football season. I am so excited to folks, and hopefully at some in the near future, whether it be targeting in the off season or sometime during the season, it is interactive content with you, the viewer, being able to do some sort of thing to try to get this just at the end of the day. I wanted to involve the viewer. But thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you guys like this video if you like the video, like I mentioned earlier. I'll see you guys in the next one.